Hello class, and welcome to today's algebra lesson, which is about the inverses of linear functions. By the end of today's lesson, you will be able to find and graph the inverses of relations and functions. So an inverse function is a function where the x and y coordinates of each ordered pair flip-flop. So essentially, what used to be written as the ordered pair xy is going to turn into the ordered pair yx. The reason that inverse functions are important is because sometimes you are given the y values as something to plug into the equation, and you can resolve or find the inverse function in order to be able to plug those in quickly. So we're going to start by just looking at the inverses of relations. So we're going to take our coordinates and we're just going to flip the x and y values. So the first inverse, instead of -1, +5, it's going to be +5, -1. The second pair would become 6, 3. The third pair would become -8, 7. And the last pair would become 9, 5. So all we did was take and flip-flop the x and y values. Go ahead and try this one on your own. Once again, going through and just flipping all those x and y values to find your inverse function. The next thing we're going to do is look at that on a graph. If you are looking at a graph of an inverse function, the first thing that you're going to need to do is pick out the actual coordinate pairs on your graph. So you're going to start at the end of your line and go to only the points that have actual intersections, so where you can tell the actual values of the points. So for example, right here, 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 and here. So our first point is at -1, -5. The second point is at 0, -2. The third point is at 1, 1. And the last point is at 2, 4. Then we want to go ahead and find the inverse of those values. So we want to flip-flop our coordinates. -5, -1, -2, 0. 1, 1 is going to stay the same because it's the same coordinates in both x and y. And then we flip-flop the last one to 4, 2. Then you want to go ahead and actually graph that function. So we're going to go -1, 2, 3, 4, 5. -1 as our first point, -2, 0 as our second, 1, 1 stays as that third point, and then +4, +2 as our last point. As usual, when we graph a line, we want to connect all the way through our points, making sure there are going to be arrows on both ends of that line to say that it is continuing on forever. So we find our original coordinates, do the inverse, and then put those inverse points onto our graph. Go ahead and try this one on your own. Once we pull out those coordinates, we have 3 that come to actual intersections, so we find the inverses of those and then graph those coordinates. The last piece is going to be to find inverse when it is written in function format. Essentially what we are doing here is trying to rearrange our equation. So the first step, because it's written as a function, we want to get it into something that we can actually manipulate. So you're going to replace f of x with y. So y is equal to -2/3 x minus 8. Now our goal is to rearrange the equation so that x is by itself, so that x is what we are solving for. So we're going to follow SADMEEP. Look for any adding and subtracting first. We have subtracting 8, so I'm going to get rid of that by adding 8 to both sides of my equation. So I've got y plus 8 is equal to -2/3 x. Then I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this dividing by 3. So that fraction tells me that our next step is to divide by 3. In order to undo dividing by 3, I'm going to multiply by 3 on the entire equation, so that means each part, which is going to give me 3y plus 24 is equal to -2x. Then I need to get rid of that -2 in front of my x. So I'm going to divide everything by -2. Almost forgot my negative sign there. So I've got -3/2 y. Remember, if you can't actually do the division, you're going to want to leave it. Minus 12 is equal to x. So that is one format of our equation. You could also have written it out as 3y plus 24. The whole thing divided by -2 is equal to x. Or you could have written it out in parenthesis form, 3y plus 24 divided by -2 is equal to x. All three of these equations mean the same thing. Go ahead and try this one on your own. First replacing f of x with y, then subtracting the 10, then dividing by the 5 to give you your final answer. If you have questions about this or anything else from the lesson, please feel free to reach out and let me know.